I would call it a victory so far for the SEC in just one cancellation. It is just a Wednesday night, so everybody keep your fingers crossed, pray, do whatever you do in these type situations. This is SEC Live, our 6th edition. We are going to carry this at least through the end of the football season, and we hope to do it every week as we approach everything else here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. May is no different than October, than June, than February. We talk college football here every day. Therefore, the shows that we produce them every week. We produce them every day. We're here all the time, 24/7, 365. So our same aim is in place for SEC football and our SEC live show here each and every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time, but we will need a sponsor to carry us past the football season. So please, if you yourself own a business and believe that you could benefit from a sponsorship here at SEC Live, then contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail, or if you know of any potential sponsors, hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Texas A&M and Ole Miss are on the shelf for this week. We talked to Leah Musgrave earlier this week from TexAgs.com. We're going to have that conversation online for you tomorrow. You can check that out. We also have an SEC channel, the voice of college football SEC. So check that out. Currently branded as SG1 SEC. Check out that channel if you just want to lock in on the SEC. I'm going to dive into the live chat. Going to field your comments, your questions as always. And I have sent a mass DM out for SEC contributors to jump on and our media guests. So I have absolutely no idea at this point who's going to join and when. In the meantime, you can give me a call at 860-325-3687. I'll get the phone number posted here soon, 860-325-3687. Here's the slate on Saturday. Florida, coming off the big win against Ole Miss, goes to Vanderbilt to take on the Commodores, who are still winless. We've got LSU at Arkansas, typically a game that used to be played for years and years and years. From the time that Arkansas joined the SEC, this game was played on the Friday following Thanksgiving, but no longer. That's now LSU, Texas A&M, and Arkansas, Mizzou. So you got the Hogs and the Tigers in Fayetteville, noon on Saturday. Kentucky at Alabama, tied a big 31-point favorite in that one, back on the field after missing the LSU game, or at least having that one postponed. Tennessee at Auburn. Those teams were not on the field last week either. Mississippi State takes on Georgia in Athens. Both of those teams were not on the field as well last weekend. Mizzou at South Carolina. South Carolina minus Will Muschamp for the first time in 5 years. Go with offensive coordinator Mike Bobo as we await what South Carolina officials and administrators will choose for a next head coach. And again, the matchup that has been postponed is Texas A&M hosting Ole Miss. You can catch me at 860-325-3687. Tons of content coming your way. This week, already been posted. Ohio State, Indiana, Michigan talk, Wisconsin, Northwestern, 2 huge games in the Big Ten. SEC-related material. We've been talking Florida here multiple times each week. Arkansas, LSU as well. Alabama, we've been talking a few times per week. We've got a great conversation coming up with Joe Hunk, who joins us on a regular basis. Joe's a whole lot of fun. He works at 97.7 ESPN in Huntsville. Joe was on the line with us yesterday to talk Alabama-Auburn. That conversation will be posted tomorrow. And again, Leah Musgraves from TexAgs.com. Let's see who's in the live chat. Bo Weevil even though it's the SEC. It's good to see you. Clemson, Florida State talk. We just finished up. Kirby Dumb. That couldn't possibly have anything to do with recent quarterback decisions. Hey, finally some real football talk. Cheryl, thanks for the reminder to everyone. Hit that like button. It helps build the channel. We got Ballard, the big Alabama fan, Ballard Sports Media on the line. Good to see you, as well as Hman998. Alan V, Troll Patrol. SEC football. Yes, SEC football. And Hman998. Wild week for us here in South Carolina, nonstop news. Check out our conversation with Will Gunter from 97.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina, breaking down the Will Muschamp situation, the firing, whether it was warranted, and looking ahead to candidates. Seems as though a lot of people around the SEC are pointing toward Liberty and Hugh Freeze. All right. So certainly the best game in the SEC this weekend, probably the most entertaining, I would think, would be either that Tennessee-Auburn game or LSU-Arkansas. Unfortunately for the conference, if you want suspense, you've got none. Florida's wrapped up the East. Alabama has wrapped up the West, not mathematically, but in all intents purposes, it's shut down. The West is Bama's. They haven't lost a game. Nobody else has lost less than 2 games. Well, Texas A&M with the 1 loss, but it might as well be 2 losses since they lost the head-to-head to Bama. Same goes for Florida, Georgia. Of course, they decided things a couple weeks ago, and Kyle Trask lit up the Dogs 44-28. So it's Florida, it's Alabama. The most frequented SEC championship game. This is the SEC championship matchup that we have seen the most. Alabama and Florida. I covered the 1994 Alabama-Florida SEC championship game. That was one of 3 SEC championship games I went to and covered in the 90s. And in 94, that was a big game. That was even bigger than the conference championship. Alabama was undefeated, and that Alabama team lost to Florida 24-23. Florida, that Florida team, I believe, came into the game with 1 loss. So they were not really in a position to have a real shot at a national championship. They were still ranked in the top 5. And that 1994 Florida team, I'm trying to think what they did. They went on to the Sugar Bowl, I believe. And Alabama played in the Citrus Bowl as a 12-1 team. Hey, we got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line. Want to talk to him. Stephen, how you doing today?
Doing good, and yourself?
I'm doing well. Again, everyone, it's Stephen M. Smith of TouchdownAlabama.com on the line with the Crimson Tide taking on Kentucky in Tuscaloosa. So, Stephen, I got to think that you and everybody else in the great state of Alabama is hoping to see some football this weekend as opposed to last weekend.
Very true. I know the fans and myself, and of course the team and Coach Saban would have loved to have played LSU on last week in Baton Rouge, but unfortunately there was a rise in coronavirus cases there, and you have to keep in mind the public health and safety of everyone. So this week you get a chance to play Kentucky at Bryant-Denny, and the guys are excited for it.
We're not hearing any rumblings, whether it be just concerning this particular matchup or anywhere in the SEC concerning there possibly being any more postponements. Anything else?
Well, I have not heard anything this week in terms of postponement. I just know that Coach Saban has been very happy about the enthusiasm and the energy of his team has shown throughout both 5 weeks, and especially this week of practice, getting ready for Kentucky. So everything is pointing forward to a matchup this week.
Is there any talk about Mac Jones and the Heisman Trophy? I know that that's not the type talk that we're going to hear from Nick Saban, not the type talk we're going to even hear from Alabama players unless they are posed to that question. But is that talk circulating at all around media?
It is circulating around media. It is circulating around the fans. And I feel like the players on the team hear the conversation. I feel like the players on the team know that type of conversation is going on. But like you mentioned, Mark, they're trying to keep their heads focused on one game at a time. But definitely the Alabama media has been discussing one Mac Jones in the thick of this Heisman race right now.
Now, this Kentucky team is, of course, a bit disappointing this season. Mark Stoops has built this program up to a certain level that reached the top 10 in the country 2 years ago with a bowl win against Penn State, 10-3 season, even despite losing their starting quarterback last year and playing basically what was a wildcat approach for much of the season last year because of injuries. Lynn Bowden taking over there at quarterback, they were still able to go 8-5 and win a bowl game. So they've reached a status in the SEC where they're going to recruit in the top 25. And they're going to field teams that are going to win 7 to 8 to 10 games. I expected this preseason to be a better matchup and a more meaningful matchup for Kentucky, but they're having trouble scoring points. How do you see this matchup with Kentucky going to Tuscaloosa?
Kentucky brings in actually a really, really good run game under Mark Stoops. They got a great left tackle. The young man is projected a first rounder, so they're going to want to run the football off of the left tackle. And for Alabama this week, the job has been gap assignment, whether it's DJ Dale or Christian Barmore, Byron Young, or whomever is on the defensive line. And definitely the inside linebackers with Dylan Moses and Christian Harris been attack the gap, feel the hole, fit the run, and be able to dissect where that football is going. While Kentucky does not really do a lot in the passing game there, whether it's with Terry Wilson, quarterback, or Joey Gatewood, this group likes to line up, be physical, and run the football. So Coach Saban has talked about all week, this is a different team, this is a different challenge, so we have to be able to get those run fits and force Terry Wilson to go over the top, in the passing game.
So we're hearing more than just discussion, but it seems to be fairly verified the way the SEC schedule is playing out and with a number of postponements that there will be additional SEC games scheduled the week of the conference championship game, which is pretty fascinating to me. I think it's intriguing. It's similar to what the approach is in both the Big Ten and the Pac-12. Because of their reduced seasons, they knew that they had to get in as many games as possible and had a limited number of weeks. So they were already scheduling games based on the seedings and the standings the week of their conference championship games. But the SEC, because of the postponements in recent weeks, looking to get in additional games. However, with Alabama qualifying, basically, it's not mathematically locked, but we know the situation. Alabama's going to make it to the SEC championship game. So therefore, they can't make up a game. So the LSU game being canceled for them for the first time, I believe, since the early 60s that Alabama and LSU have not met on the football field.
And it's interesting there, Mark, because you have some fans out there that really wanted this matchup between Alabama and LSU. Alabama fans want this matchup for a little bit of revenge. LSU fans want this matchup to kind of see, could it take down Alabama again? So both sides of the coin really wanted this matchup. But, like you mentioned, when you look at the schedule, Alabama pretty much has its sights set on getting to the SEC title game in Atlanta and facing Florida, for the conference championship and move on from there. So while both fan bases of Alabama and LSU would have wanted this game, not playing it for a lot of other people, they feel like, well, Alabama's more focused on getting through the rest of the season anyway. Does this game have any merit to it if you play it? So it has been very interesting seeing how Commissioner Sankey has gone about making the adjustments.
Alabama, of course, undefeated, number one in the country, takes on Kentucky this Saturday, SEC Network game, 4 o'clock Eastern time in Tuscaloosa. Then it's Auburn. Then it's Arkansas on the road before the SEC championship game. Again, it's not mathematically set, but the Florida Gators are waiting on the other side. So as you see it before the big matchup against Florida, what would be the key areas of improvement available to Nick Saban and his staff to try to work on?
Well, definitely number one, definitely it's going to be the eye discipline in the defensive backfield, primarily the two safety spots. When you look at Daniel Wright and Jordan Battle, both young men have tremendous talents, both guys from the Florida area, South Florida area, and while they have a lot to bring to the table, both guys have kind of been a bit inconsistent this year in terms of the eye discipline, in terms of the ball judgment. When you look at Daniel Wright, he'll have a moment where he'll make a big play, and then he'll have a moment where he'll miss a big play, and it creates a marquee yardage or a touchdown for the opposing team. So definitely the eye discipline on the back end. Coach Saban wants to get that improved. Another area I would like to see get better is in the punting game. And since the departure of J.K. Scott to the NFL, Alabama has struggled to find that next punter now. Last season, it found a guy by the name of Todd Pirine as a true freshman walk-on at a Prattville, Alabama. And the young man was fantastic. Had 15 punts for 581 yards. He averaged 45 yards a punt. Really brought some smiles there to fans inside Bryce Denny last year through 6 games, but he has not played at all this season. And people are wondering, why is Pirine not on the field? Is he in the doghouse? Is he in trouble? Is he bothering Coach Saban? Which none of those things are the reason in question, but would like to see Alabama definitely improve in that punting area, moving forward down the stretch of the season. So to me, discipline on the back end, the punting area, and just continuing to grow defensively and getting the pressure to the quarterback.
Stephen, we've been talking for a number of years. One of my favorite questions, because I like to keep up with everyone and I like to know who's out there, and I try to know everybody on these teams, is that give us an offensive player, give us a defensive player that most fans aren't going to know, that you are intrigued by, that you think have stepped up this year, that might be major contributors going into 2021.
I'll throw 2 guys out here right now. Number one, offensively, keep your eyes on Chase McClellan, the running back from Aledo, Texas, Aledo High School in the Texas area, the 4-star. He was an Oklahoma pledge for almost 2 years before he flipped to Alabama late in the 2020 recruiting cycle. The guy has an unbelievable gear to him. Once he gets to the next level, of a defense, can run in between the tackles, can bounce it outside, really good hands out the backfield. And after Alabama lost Keelan Robinson to an opt-out before the season started, Chase McClellan has that type of speed that a Keelan Robinson has. So that's going to be fun to watch this week against Kentucky, down throughout the remainder of the season, and also in 2021. Defensively is a guy by the name of Will Anderson, the 5-star from Hampton, Georgia, played at Dutchtown High School at 6'4", 235 pounds. He has not gotten his first career sack yet, but he has been a terror in the backfield, pressuring the quarterback, knocking guys down, forcing tackles for loss. He has recently been named or been added to the Chuck Bednarik Award watching list, which is incredible for somebody who has not gotten his first career sack yet. But he's the big-time factor at that jack linebacker position. Keep your eyes on him this week. That first sack may possibly come this weekend against Kentucky, and watch him in 2021 as well. Anderson could be something really special here as a pass rusher.
So, Stephen, it should only be, I believe, 4 weeks from tonight that it's National Signing Day. I'm looking at an Alabama class that has overtaken Ohio State as the #1 ranked in the country, according to the 247 Sports Composite, with 22 hard commits. Just give us anything that you would like that stands out to you in regards to your favorite recruits at this point and the strength of this class.
I like so many guys in this class, Mark, but the one guy that has really just intrigued my attention is Christian Leary at wide receiver, the young man from South Florida. Alabama brought in Henry Ruggs, and Henry Ruggs the third fast. But Alabama comes behind him and brings in Jalen Waddle, and Jalen Waddle fast. But you watch tape on Christian Leary, it's like, could he get any more faster? Like, this dude is an absolute blur on the field. He's like a ghost out there putting defensive backs on skates. So Christian Leary is a young man at wide receiver I'm very intrigued by and excited to get him on the campus for 2021. As far as the strength of this class goes, the 2017 class was definitely Nick Saban's most explosive offensive freshman class, 2017. But this 2021 class could possibly be one of Saban's best defensive recruiting classes he's had. It's run up there with that 2013 class in terms of best defensive groups. When you look at a JaQuincy McKinstry in this class, 5-star defensive back athlete, a Dallas Turner in this class, a Ian Jackson in this class, and Quinn Barnes in this class. And there's so many really good defensive players in this class. And Saban, wants to get back to having that dominant unit there on the defensive side of the ball. So excited about Christian Leary and wide receiver, but I really like this class, especially with what Nick Saban has compiled together defensively.
Lock in that name, folks. Christian Leary out of Edgewater High School in Orlando, 7th rated wide receiver in the country, number 10 rated player in the state of Florida, number 62. That's regardless of position, committed to the Tide back in June. Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama getting us set for Kentucky and Alabama in Tuscaloosa coming up at 4 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. Stephen, you have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the game. We appreciate you stopping by as always.
Absolutely, Mark. You guys take care.
Our man, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Join him on Twitter. He's at Coaching M. Smith. Coaching M. Smith on Twitter. He is a ball of fire, a ball of energy, loves college football, loves the Crimson Tide. And if you love Alabama athletics beyond football, he's also your guy. I don't know how he keeps up with all of it. But this Alabama class, after Ryan Day and company had gotten the early jump in the recruiting cycle, headed toward December, and by far had the #1 rated class for most of this time since the 2020 class was signed back in December and then finished up in February. Alabama has done what Alabama typically does, and Nick Saban with a late charge here over the past couple months to overtake Ohio State with the top-rated class as it stands right now based on the commitments. Nobody is signed, of course. The signing is, again, I'm not doing the math correctly here. It would either be 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but it's a Wednesday in mid to late December. Early signing day. This will be now, I believe, for the 3rd year in December, which gives these coaches a whole lot to do following the conference championship games. And now think about this. Conference championship games are typically the Friday and Saturday of that first weekend in December. It gives coaches and their coaching staffs about 10 more days to hit the road, sign players, get back to campus, run their team through practices, getting ready for bowl games. But they're going to be right in the middle of the season. They're going to be right in the middle of, for Alabama, preparation for the SEC championship game. But they somehow pull it all together and get it done. And right now, again, there are ones across the board for Alabama, number 1 ranked class in the SEC, number 1 in the country. And I'm actually working on a video that I'm going to post at some point in which I would like to look at every conference and basically compare the recruiting rankings and systematically go through it with what the results are on the field and see if I can draw a conclusion, which I believe that I can. And for Alabama, I went back to 2011 because I figured I want to analyze the college football playoff era. So the 2014 roster, that was the first year of the college football playoff. That roster in 2014 for all the teams would have accounted for signing classes in 2011, 12, 13, and 14, with some redshirt seniors on the team from 2010, but generally since 2011. The Alabama signing classes since 2011 have ranked number 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 5. Horrible year, 1 and 2. So our thanks to Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama and his insight into the Tide and the Wildcats. All right. This is SEC Live. We come your way every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm getting my shows confused. It would be 8 o'clock Eastern Time right now. We finished up with Florida State at 6. We did Ohio State at 2. We've got a busy Wednesday in addition to all the records. And actually, we're going to kick it around a little bit here and open up the phone lines and leave it up to you to produce the show. Because I have run down the schedule. We talked to Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. I've got an invite out to our media guests that cover the SEC. But otherwise, 860-325-3687 for any of you to call in and let me know what you think about anything in college football, but preferably the SEC. Otherwise, we will check out a tight end transfer from Oklahoma to Auburn. This is a Grant Calcaterra, who was the starting tight end at Oklahoma, briefly retired from football because of multiple concussions. I remember that, transferring to Auburn. So he's decided to get back in the game, and he's headed to the Plains. Calcaterra said in August that he would return to football, but not at Oklahoma, a team he thanked both then and in Wednesday's announcement. In November 2019, Calcaterra announced that he would retire from football after enduring, quote, a fair share of concussions during his career. Calcaterra said he had consulted Oklahoma's doctors and specialists around the country before reaching his decision. But now he's changed his mind and tweeted today, a year ago, I would have never pictured my life the way it is now. I don't believe in bad situations, just opportunities for growth. I'm more than grateful for the past year, but even more excited for my future challenges. Thanks again, Sooner Nation, committed to Auburn. So Calcaterra stands 6'4", 230. Will play in 2021 for Auburn with one more year of eligibility. He last played on October 5th of 19 against Kansas. He was a first-team All-Big 12 selection in 2018 with 26 catches, 396 yards, and 6 touchdowns, starting 11 games. Honorable mention, All-Big 12 as a freshman in 2017. Good get for Auburn. Very capable player, All-Big 12 tight end. All right. Anyone else in the chat? Would I fire Jim Harbaugh? Mineral Tim, good to see you. So I've stated consistently that I would not fire Jim Harbaugh, but based on what I'm watching the last couple of weeks, my decision has started to become a little bit more contested. So this is my basic thought, is that Jim Harbaugh has done more than a capable job at Michigan. And before anybody rants and raves and goes crazy and attacks me and criticizes that comment, I said he's done more than a capable job at Michigan up until this season. His teams have generally won 9 to 10 games in the regular season, have gone to prominent bowl games, have finished in the top 15 in the nation. But that's not what he was hired to do. That's not what he's paid to do. He's paid to contend for Big Ten championships, can seriously contend and win Big Ten championships, and contend and ultimately win a national championship. He's being paid top 3 to 4 money in the country to win championships. He's not doing that. And the look around this program right now, in watching this team falter week to week, and now we've seen a team that has been disappointing in recent years now become an atrocity. So unless things changed drastically, I would fire Jim Harbaugh at the end of this season. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
88 coming at you. I've got the Southeastern Conference up in front of me.
Yep.
Alabama is the only one that is undefeated.
Yes.
The Gators have a loss. Georgia has 2 losses.
Yep. Texas A&M has 1.
Or the Aggies.
Yep.
Sorry, Texas A&M. They're 1 loss. So I think the question is anybody else they play, if they lose, they fall down into the single loss teams. Just something I thought I'd throw that at you listening to your conversation here.
So you're trying to figure out who's going to make the playoff from the SEC?
If there's going to be a playoff, I don't know if there's ever going to be one, but
let's be hopeful.
Just things I throw at.
Let's be hopeful for a playoff, and I still owe you a playoff rundown that I promised you.
Oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm just going with your SEC conference tonight. So,
yeah. So the way this shakes out is that Alabama, as you said, is undefeated. They're going to play Florida in the SEC championship game. Florida's got a 1 loss. That was a 3-point loss last play of the game against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M only has 1 loss. But since they lost the head-to-head to Alabama, they will not play in the SEC championship game. So if everything goes as expected, Alabama's going to beat Florida, and they'll go on to the playoff. But if Florida beats Alabama, then we've got a mess, because Florida's going to have 1 loss as the SEC champion. Alabama's going to have 1 loss, and Texas A&M is going to have 1 loss.
If anybody defeats Alabama, they're done. They fall into the squad with the rest of the single loss teams.
Sure.
Just my point.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can look at it and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that can't even be right either. They're the only in-conference team that is undefeated is Alabama.
Sure. We're only talking about 3 teams, really, that need to be talked about. Alabama, Florida, and Texas A&M.
Yep, I agree with you. So I just wanted to muscle that into the conversation of this case.
Always good to hear from you.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
All right, Tom. See ya. Navy Thomas, who I believe is the oldest active member of our subscriber base that still watches on a regular basis and comments and calls. And I'm going to get that list out here soon. I am going to go back and I'm going to flip my subscriber list. I believe I can do this in YouTube, where I can go back and I can find that individual who is the oldest subscriber, the person that has been subscribed here the longest, that is still a subscriber. I'm sure people subscribed before that, but then they dropped the subscription. But the longest running subscriber here to Mark Rogers TV. But I know that Navy Thomas is the longest that is still active here just all the time. Somebody asked about Jeremy Pruitt. There it is. HMan998 asked about Jeremy Pruitt. So Jeremy Pruitt takes over at Tennessee. Butch Jones had 2 consecutive 9-4 seasons. That was his high water mark, and then it caved in on him after that. So Jeremy Pruitt comes in with 2 huge pluses. Number 1 being defense, number 2 being recruiting. Comes to Tennessee, improves the recruiting, gets off to a horrible start in 2019 with losses to Georgia State of all teams, a 2-win Group of 5 team the year before, and of course BYU, a game in which just basically Tennessee gave them the game. Got off to the horrible start last year, rallied against the weaker portion of the schedule, finished 8-5 after a bowl win against Indiana. Goes into the offseason with all that momentum. 6 consecutive wins, a bowl victory, and then brings in a tremendous recruiting class. Okay. He's off to another great start in recruiting for 2021. If I would pull it up right now, he's got to have a top 10 class in the nation for 2021 that's going to be signed here in about 3 weeks, most of them. The problem with Jeremy Pruitt is that he plays in a division with Florida and Georgia. It was a division with Georgia. Now it's a division with Florida and Georgia. And his other issue is quarterback. And the quarterback position, the way the game's played today as opposed to 10 years ago, it was always the most important position, but it's just being amplified with the level of play, with the level of passing proficiency, with just the style of play being that you have to constantly just keep up with the opposition. Their track meets, their scoring contests, you have to have a precisioned passer. Jeremy Pruitt has a quarterback issue in that Jarrett Garantano is not the answer, but this will either be his final season or, as everyone has the opportunity this year, he'll be able to come back next year. And he's got these other quarterbacks, most notably Harrison Bailey is the guy that everyone wants to see play. He's the highest ranked recruit, and he should have been playing a few weeks ago, in my opinion, and should finish out this season. So Jeremy Pruitt's not going to get fired. I don't believe he's going to get fired regardless of what happens for the remainder of this season. He was 2-0, leading Georgia at halftime. Since then, it's been all downhill. 4 consecutive losses, and by huge margins. They're getting blown out against almost everyone. Georgia blew them out. Alabama blew them out. Kentucky blew them out by 27. Kentucky. And then they lose this game after going up 2 scores against Arkansas. They give up 24 consecutive points. Bad look for the program, but he's recruiting well. They need to go into next season with a sure plan at quarterback. He needs to know, and his staff, his quarterback coach, Chris Winkie, his staff, they need to know, how good is Harrison Bailey? Harrison Bailey should have been playing a couple weeks ago. He should have finished out the season with 7 or 8 games under his belt. So they would have known, okay, this is the guy that we're banking on for 2021, or this is not the guy that we're going to bank on for 2021. We got to hit the transfer portal. Of course, recruit and sign a quarterback, but that quarterback's not going to be ready for 2021 most likely, unless he's Trevor Lawrence or somebody to that degree. But transfer portal might be Jeremy Pruitt's opportunity to keep his job because he has to win in 2021. They have to be competitive with the 2 monsters in the East for him to keep his job. I've got to think that he's got to have a 9-3 kind of season in 2021. And to do so, they've got to solve the quarterback situation. They are getting arguably the worst quarterback play in the conference. it's certainly in the bottom 3. So if we would look at Tennessee's 2021 class, and again, this most likely is not going to solve it for 2021 unless whoever they sign and get on campus in January is just that good that he becomes the latest freshman quarterback that makes a difference. So the Tennessee 2021 class is right now ranked 11th in the country. So another tremendous class from Jeremy Pruitt. But life in the SEC is that when you sign the 11th best class in the country, it's only number 5 in the SEC. All right, at quarterback. Right now, again, Tennessee is projected to have the 5th best class in the conference and the 11th best class in the country. And out of 26 hard commits for 2021, I'm going to look through it one more time, but I'm almost positive I saw no quarterbacks. None. No. Okay, whoa. Here we go. Dual threat quarterback, Caden Salter out of Texas. He's the 7th rated dual threat quarterback in the country. He's the 32nd rated player in Texas. He's a top 200 player. He committed back in May. Dual threat quarterback, 6'2", 185, Caden Salter. So if he is the real deal immediately and they can get him on campus in January, then he's going to be battling Harrison Bailey. And I would say my advice for Jeremy Pruitt, and he's probably already thought of it, I'm sure, is that he needs to be in the transfer portal every day looking for a quarterback for 2021 to keep his job. Illich 721. Phil Fulmer won't swallow his pride and admit he made a bad hire. Mineral Tim 79. Only teams that can beat Alabama are Clemson and Ohio State. I would agree with that. I do believe that Alabama is the best team in the country right now. Eli thinks that Harbaugh will just leave or have some mutual parting of ways. I could see that happening. Absolutely. Mineral Tim 79. Mark, would you pick Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence? I would say that through all the games, including the national championship game of last season, I was in the Trevor Lawrence camp. But based on what I've seen and observed and reviewed previously, meaning in 2019, since then, I am tending to favor Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence. It's a close call. It's a great call. Trevor Lawrence will probably still be the number 1 pick in the draft. HMan 998, everybody hit that like button. Yes, please do that. Keep in mind that the super chat is on as well. This is what we do all the time, is talk college football with you. And please go to the community page on my YouTube channel. On the front page, go to the community page, and you're going to see a poll there where I'm asking for you to vote on when you would be most available and likely to watch, listen to a live call-in show every night, Monday through Friday. So yeah, just vote right there. And I'm going to make a decision here in the next few days because I'd like to start it next week. A dedicated show every night or day at one particular time. Not that I'm not going to be doing other live streams, but let me know what time you want me to be doing a live call-in show every night. Hman998, have you seen the issues going on at LSU? How do you think these could impact them in the long term? Well, they're serious issues and they're serious accusations that are being investigated. So if they are proven factual, then that is not a football situation from the standpoint. So there are two general areas of infractions and wrongdoing that can occur within any athletic program, specifically football. One would be those things that relate to competition on the field. You had players given grades that they didn't earn or had tests passed for them so that they could stay eligible. You gave players money to either stay there or to come to school there. Recruiting violations, all those things that pertain specifically to the field and you wanting to field the best football team and cheating in that way to get the best players and field the best football team. So that's a competitive wrongdoing. This would be in the other category of things that are illegal, immoral, that are wrong, hateful towards society, that the football program is going to pay a price for because you allowed your football players, you enabled your football players to partake in things that are criminal, of criminal activity. So there are rules within the competition of sports and football that are violations that only affect the competition on the field versus criminal actions. And LSU has, if these are true, they have condoned and looked past criminal actions. So yeah, it's going to be serious. It could severely impact them in the long run. And to use the word right there, that's pretty much what it's going to be. Alan V, Troll Patrol, telling H-Man it's called probation. And we have seen every program in the SEC get hit by probation in the last 20 years. Upset alert by King by default 13. Notre Dame versus North Carolina next Friday night. Upset alert. I know that's going to be a tremendous game, or at least I believe it will be, and can't wait. Cheryl letting everyone know, watch Mark's show with the guy from Indiana 247 Sports was funny. He said Indy has the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. Oh, is SEC Dog getting on me? What's going on here? SEC Dog. Mark is trying to talk SEC. Give him some credit. Absolutely. So if you would like me to start a live stream for your team, then we need to do some work to get a sponsor. So that is the deal going forward, because many of you know what my situation is now as opposed to what it was a couple months ago. So a couple months ago, it was me trying to build a business here and still having a full-time job that was supporting me, but doing this as a side business to try to build things up. Now, this is all I got. This is everything. So we need to hit the pavement. And unfortunately, I just can't talk college football and study college football and read college football and get on here and rant and rave and talk with all of you, because that's the fun part of the job. That's what I love to do. But I've got to be a social media guy. I've got to be a marketer. I've got to be a branding person. I got to be a salesperson, an operations person, a technical person. North Florida White Trash, thank you so much for the contribution. Appreciate that so much. Love your content, Mark. Thank you so much, North Florida White Trash. Appreciate that. Just this week, my goodness. So I've got so many videos that I recorded today that I still need to release. And so you're going to see those. For those of you who are on here that love the SEC, and I'm sure most of you do, check out our SEC channel. So that's in partnership right now with SG1. So it's SG1 SEC college football, but it's going to be renamed here soon. The voice of college football. So just in the last few days, if I can pull this up. We have covered Florida State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, Michigan, South Carolina, Penn State, Nebraska, UCLA, Cal, and there's more coming. So appreciate the contribution. A lot of people think that, that South Carolina is going to go the route of Shane Beamer, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, also as the recruiting coordinator. Okay, so that he won't necessarily be the head coach is what we're hearing there from Litchy 721. Shane Beamer, great recruiter, has ties to the Spurrier era at South Carolina. He's a hot name at the moment. So, okay, Shane Beamer, the hot name, along with Billy Napier at South Carolina, along with the Coastal Carolina coach, Chadwell. A lot of people like to throw in Hugh Freeze. I have as well. I don't know that South Carolina wants to deal with Hugh Freeze at this point. Cheryl asking, Mark, who has the best wide receivers in the Big Ten? That would be Ohio State. It's not that debatable. But I would say that Indiana has the best or the second best group of wide receivers in the Big Ten. I would say that Minnesota probably has the third best wide receivers in the Big Ten if you're just talking about the two that start, Rashad Bateman and Chris Ottman-Bell. But if you go for a collection of wide receivers, past that, I would say Ohio State is 1, Indiana 2, either Purdue or Michigan 3 and 4, something in that range. And Derek wants to get rid of Justin Fuente. Justin Fuente, 9 and 4, 10 and 4 his first 2 years, got off to a good start the third season, but then they crashed to 6 and 7. And really, it's been not a good situation at Virginia Tech since. They had a decent season last year, actually better than what many forecasted early because they lost to Duke. They lost to somebody else bad. They lost to another bad team early. Lost a couple bad-looking games early, but rallied to finish 8 and 5. But Justin Fuente is not recruiting well at all at Virginia Tech. Ryan Hinkie, Brian has said many times, meaning Brian Kelly, that he wants to finish his career at Notre Dame. But you never know. Can Michigan afford that with a buyout in 2020? Brian Kelly goes to Michigan. That's the first time I've heard that possibility. I don't know why Brian Kelly would leave Notre Dame to go to Michigan. Well, yes, Cheryl, if we include Rondell Moore. Yes, I was not including Rondell Moore in my evaluation of Purdue. That was even without Rondell Moore that I was considering Purdue third or fourth in the Big Ten at wide receiver because David Bell's tremendous. You throw in Rondell Moore, and Purdue probably has an argument to at least trotting the first two out, the best in the Big Ten. Now, if you take the whole collection, because most teams in this day and age, they're going to start 3 wide receivers, A fourth guy is going to play a ton. The fifth guy even is going to play a ton. You've got to go 5 deep at wide receiver. And the first 3 guys are prominent. Then I go Ohio State. With Rondell Moore involved, I probably still go Ohio State 1, but Purdue 2, then Indiana 3. So that was without Rondell Moore included. Yeah, we know, Alan. We know that Rondell Moore isn't playing college ball and he's sitting out, and I don't know why they just don't announce it. But he's still officially on the Purdue roster, said that he was opting back in, and he's on the team. So, but yes. Cheryl is saying that Rondell Moore is activated to play. Do we know this? Really? I know it's an SEC show, but I'm going to go with whatever you guys give me. And I'm not hearing from anyone else. No other media guess. I don't see anything online about Rondell Moore playing. Matthew, a good quarterback makes the receivers better and vice versa. Illich 721. Does Mark Stoops take the Iowa job if Kirk Ferentz gets fired? Unless Iowa's administration is really fed up with all the off-field issues at Iowa, I don't know how Kirk Ferentz is going to get fired. But I have heard that a lot, not just from you, from a lot of people. And maybe it's time for Iowa to move on anyway. He's been there forever. 1999. Mark Stoops, does he take that job? Man, that is a great question. As long as he gets paid at least as much money, I think he can go to Iowa, and he's got a better chance of winning there and going to Big Ten championship games. Much better opportunity there than he does at Kentucky, slamming his head against the wall and trying to get past Georgia and Florida. And if he sticks around Kentucky long enough, he may have to try to get through Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. So I think that's a good question. And if I'm Mark Stoops, and okay, we all have different values in life. We all have different preferences in taking jobs, in going places. There's money, there's prestige, there's location, there's people, there's just fit that can't be defined, but basically, where do you fit in terms of, yes, the surroundings, the location, the culture, all of those things. You have all those things to consider in taking a job. The future, the opportunity, are you going to have the resources to succeed? Now, these guys are built to compete. So they want to compete. They want to compete at the highest level. They want to win in addition to getting paid. So if Mark Stoops gets paid at least as much money at Iowa as he does at Kentucky, and he's okay with the culture, the university, the people he's going to work with, he believes that they're going to invest in football and give him the opportunity to win, which there should be no reason why he wouldn't believe that, because Iowa's been extremely competitive in that division. Then if I'm Mark Stoops, I go to Iowa and I compete for Big Ten championships, at least the opportunity to get to the Big Ten championship game, rather than banging my head against the wall in Georgia, Florida, and possibly Tennessee. Our man DeAndre, BGPO Football Funk, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Where's the love for BGPO Football Funk? What do you mean? What do you mean? Have you been commenting here? DeAndre, you know I'm with you, man. Thank you. Bama, 2 to bone. Georgia, doing the Big East. Georgia do in the Big Ten East, or how would do in the Big Ten? I guess he's asking how Georgia would do in the Big Ten East this particular season, or just overall. Well, they would compete with Ohio State for Big Ten championships. They're loaded. They're loaded. I know people are down on Kirby Smart and they're down on Georgia right now, and he has botched the quarterback situation here in this situation, and I've outlined it elsewhere, and I'd be happy to explain it again if somebody wants to ask. But basically, I've said it a zillion times, so I'm not going to bore other people that have heard me. I've explained how he's botched this quarterback situation. The Jake Fromm, Justin Fields quarterback situation, I'm going to be a little bit more lenient and understanding of Kirby Smart. Not that he didn't make a bad decision, a wrong decision, and it's obvious based on the play, but Jake Fromm was capable, more than capable. Jake Fromm was a top 10 to 15 quarterback in the country. Jake Fromm led a team to that close to win a national championship. So I don't necessarily fault Kirby Smart for the decision that he made concerning Jake Fromm, but in 2020, he messed things up. But he's still bringing in tremendous talent there. And I think a lot of people just assume that that's what happens at Georgia, that they bring in tremendous talent all the time, and it just happens. Look at post Vince Dooley Georgia with Jim Donnan and Ray Goff prior to Mark Richt, between like 1989 and 2002, something in that range when Mark Richt took over. Georgia was South Carolina. Georgia was what Kentucky is now. They had a couple years where they spiked 9-2, 10-2, but there were there were some 5-6 years, a lot of 8-3, a lot of 7-4. Georgia was nothing great in the 90s. And then Mark Richt took over, and to his credit, he finished in the top 10 8 times in 15 years, and Georgia became something else, and now Kirby Smart has taken it to another level. Now, he's not going to continue that if he continues to botch quarterback situations, and they continue to hit their head against Alabama and can't get past it. John, thank you so much for letting Wampa75 know that, I got a Patreon. We've got 60 patrons over there on Patreon. What you get for about 16 cents per day, $5 a month, is you get an insider look at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and not just what we do right now, but my background, my career, all those things, whatever you want to ask me, and we go beyond that. But more importantly, you get watch parties, possibly this Saturday, considering a watch party for Ohio State, Indiana. Watch parties, exclusive live streams per request, and you also get my predictions. And we talk to Steve Merrill from Pro Sports Info. We bring him on every week to give his lock of the week. So hopefully we make you some money as well. Before we move on to Kevin McGuffey from Last Word on College Football, I want to get in this super chat contribution. Wampus75, thank you so much for the contribution, Wampus. Should South Carolina hire Bobby Petrino? No. Rich Rodriguez? No. Art Briles? No. Bill Belichick? Yes, if they could, but they would probably have to pay him I don't know if there's enough money in the world to bring in Bill Belichick to coach South Carolina. Is there a more direct way to donate to you? Yes. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Thank you so much, Wampa75. I appreciate that. Go to any of those and just search Mark Rogers TV. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We're going to talk some Kentucky football. Got Kevin McGuffey on the line from Last Word on College Football. Kevin, if you can we can get you up on over that. I can't do anything about that. Once I send a graphic to the screen, I've always got to have a graphic there. So even if I take that down, there's going to be something else that's
okay.
going to pop up there.
That's okay.
Hey.
I'll back up a little bit.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Watching, trying to keep tabs on your show, and then watching the NBA draft tonight. Usually, it's annual Kentucky basketball. As we like to call it, basically a promo reel for Kentucky's basketball program. But this year, probably maybe only one guy, Tyrese Maxey, maybe going in the lottery. But anyway, but that's not what we're, like I said, keeping tabs on that, and then keeping tabs on your show. So it's good to talk with you again. There's been a lot going on since the last. The Kentucky program since we talked last Wednesday. So,
well, we've only talked. Yeah, it was only a week ago. So you got to fill us in. What has happened? I know that you survived Vanderbilt. That might have been a bit of a disaster there, but you did survive that game, 38-35. So what else concerning Kentucky?
Well, we talked about the coaches and Coach John Schlarman about he had cancer diagnosis 2 years ago when he hadn't missed a game, had only missed a couple practices, and then he missed the Missouri game, and then missed the and hadn't been around since then. Well, he passed away on Thursday from complications from cancer. It was one of the hardest to treat and one of the most rarest forms of cancer. He passed away on Thursday, and they had a memorial service for him yesterday or on Monday at Kroger Field with a lot of the coaches, a few of the former players. Neil Brown from West Virginia, who of course was on the staff with Coach Stoops and them. He came on, and spoke, and but anyway, like I said, that, and they're obviously, and then actually getting to go out on the field and play on Saturday was probably, one of the best things they could do. And then they helped honor him with that win over Vanderbilt. And then, the other thing, changing subject slightly, or, you and I talked Wednesday night, and I said, Kentucky was a 17-point favorite. And I said in the SEC, never take Kentucky in the points. And, it was sitting there with about 9 minutes to go, and Kentucky was ahead 38-21. I was like, well, maybe they'll cover this time. And then Coach Stoops decided to take the foot off the gas. Let some younger guys get some playing time. Bo Allen at quarterback, some younger guys on defense. And so Vandy got two scores there late in the game, and made it a lot closer than it needed to be, and then had to take an onside kick there at the end, and Kentucky got it. And, it was one of those you never thought Kentucky was going to lose. But as a longtime Kentucky fan and a long time, following Kentucky football, it's, you can't help but think about, oh, crap, here we go again. Like the LSU game. I mentioned to somebody, you go back to the Peach Bowl back in 1993. I was at that game with some friends. Kentucky led in the fourth quarter. Marty Moore picked off a pass. Instead of falling on the ball, tried to run it, fumbled. Like 3 plays later, Clemson scored and won the game. So, but anyway, like I said, you never thought they were going to lose, but it was just uncomfortable enough that you couldn't help but have those memories come popping back in your head.
So, yeah, that would have been the embarrassment of the SEC season, to not only lose to Vandy, but to blow a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter in the process. So they got past that. Now, in looking at the quarterback situation that we addressed last week, you talked about Joey Gatewood, you talked about Bo Allen, and who's going to be the guy for 2021. Now, see, this is setting up in an interesting way with the opportunity for seniors to come back in 2021. And you've got Gatewood, you've got Allen, and normally Terry Wilson would be gone, but he's got the opportunity to come back. How in the world would you handle that coming down the stretch this season, giving these guys reps? And is this just it doesn't seem as though there's any particular quarterback at this point that's established himself. So it could be an open competition.
Right. Now, I haven't heard, we still have three games left. I haven't heard anything about, Wilson trying to come back next year or anything like that. Like I said, I think, you go, Stoops, Eddie Grant, those guys, they tend to stick with the guys who have been there the longest. They tend to stick with, kind of reward loyalty, for lack of a better word. I think they'll play. I think, they'll start. I think Wilson will start, and I think Wilson will get a majority of the snaps. Now we'll see, going against Alabama on Saturday, we'll see how that works. But like I said, I think going into 2021, I think Gatewood will be the quarterback starting off, and I think he has 2 years. 2 years of eligibility. You could have a situation with him and Bo Allen where they, maybe even alternate a little bit. Nobody, the platoon system, it's, nobody's. It may not be ideal, but like I said, I would be surprised if anybody but Wilson starts and gets the majority of the snaps the rest of the season. And then leading into 2021, you have Gatewood and Bo Allen going, that quarterback competition. Where hopefully we can actually have spring football. We can hopefully have, some sort of normalcy, and then you can have that quarterback competition, and then you see what happens after that. But as I said, I think it'll be Wilson for the rest of the year.
Now, at the running back spot, we were talking of Smoke and Rose during the offseason, and Chris Rodriguez has I don't know that he's taken over. They still seem to be in a bit of a running back by committee mode. But tell us something about Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, he's a sophomore out of Georgia, and he ran for 148 yards last weekend, put him over 1,000 for his career. He's only a sophomore. As you said, we spent a lot of time. Gotcha. Turnover, Terry Wilson. Yes, he does have problems. He has had problems with turnovers in the past. You're exactly right.
Really? More so with fumbles than interceptions.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I mean, I think if they're saying turnovers, they're thinking more of the fumbles, yeah. But no, with Rodriguez, like I said, A.J. Rose is a senior, and as I said, just a minute ago, the staff kind of rewards the seniors usually. But at the beginning of the season, speaking of turnovers, Rose had some problems with some fumbles and got, and then kind of lost some of his playing time. And then Cavassier Smoke has been hurt. He had a broken rib and other rib injury, and they've kind of been working him back into, he missed 3 games, I think. They've been working him back in the rotation. But yeah, that's kind of left Rodriguez as the guy, and he's really just taken off. And as I said, he went over 1,000 yards for his career last week against Vandy, and he probably will be the number one guy, probably going forward this year. He and Rose are splitting a lot of the carries. And then they have another guy, Juton McClain, who's a freshman, who they're really high on. And they honestly like to do the running back by committee, kind of go with whoever has the hot hand that day, whoever seems to be doing the best against whoever they're playing. But yeah, Rodriguez has been great this year. And, there's talk, people around the program that thinks, he could be another 1,000-yard rusher next year, and then maybe even have interest in, next year and the year after in the draft, even, possibly, or he might to that point where he can have to make that decision. Do I come back for my senior year, or do I go to the NFL? But, that's a year off, and we'll talk about, we'll think about that when we get there. But yeah, he's been really good. Yeah, can't argue with that one either. You got to get the passing game together. So, but Wilson looked. I understand they're playing Vanderbilt, but Wilson, completed 13 out of 15 passes. He looked good to me. He looked like the Terry Wilson from 2018 and the early part of last year before he had the knee injury. He looked good. His passes looked sharp. He just looked so much better. I don't know. Calmer is maybe not the right word, but he just looked more in tune with the offense, and it showed. Now, like I said, coming into this game on Saturday, let's face it, it's quite the challenge that Kentucky has ahead of them on Saturday.
Absolutely. So, Kevin, actually, the question there by HMan998 brings to mind a question that I've got for you. What we're seeing out of the Kentucky offense under Terry Wilson, is that mostly due to that being the Mark Stoops approach, that being the type of offense that he wants to run, a conservative, run-heavy quarterback can run, leave it to the defense, protect the football? Or is he just coaching that way and implementing that kind of offense because of the personnel he has, and they would like to find somebody where they can open it up more, throw it downfield?
I think it's a little bit of both. Stoops is kind of that old school throwback football coach, and he does love to run the ball. He loves a strong running game, and Kentucky has the backs to do that. Now they've had problems, for whatever reason with the wide receivers. Other than Josh Ali this year, they've been struggling to find that second receiver, someone else. Now against Vandy, Kentucky fans have been screaming for years, throw to the tight end. They had C.J. Conrad, one of the best, I thought one of the best tight ends in the SEC, and he would go, he would have one game where he'd have 4 or 5 catches, and then he'd go 3 games, with no catches. But yeah, I think, but then if you look at Eddie Gran, the offensive coordinator, when he was at Cincinnati, they threw the ball, up and down the field all over the place, throwing 300-400 yards a game. I think some of it has to do with Stoops, and I think some of it has to do with, for whatever reason, they just they haven't gotten the wide receivers. They think they have the guys that can make the plays. They just don't get out there in the game for whatever reason and do it. And when it just comes down to it, I think, Coach Stoops wants to go with what he's familiar with, what he's comfortable with, and that's run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. I mean, you think about it, they've had a 1,000-yard rusher the last 4 seasons. You had Boom Williams, you had Benny Snell 3 years in a row. You had Bowden last year who ran for over 1,000 yards. I don't know that they're going to get to 1,000 this year. Rodriguez will probably be the best candidate for that. But yeah, I think a lot of it just has to do with how Stoops likes to manage a football game. So I think they would rather run, they would like to pass. Obviously the fans like to pass. You and I have talked about this, the air raid offense, kind of got started here at Kentucky back with Hal Mumme. You had Mike Leach as his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, when you had Tim Couch, who had such, record-setting seasons. And, people still 20-some years later, that's the offense that they want to see, because you see it all around college football. You think about this year, like the incredible talented quarterbacks we've got, all over the country, Mac Jones being one of them, who Kentucky will face on Saturday. And you have Justin Fields and Zach Wilson and, all these guys. And of course, we talked about this last week. Mac Jones in 2015 committed to Kentucky and was a Kentucky commit for almost a year until, yes, exactly. Imagine if they had kept Mac Jones until, Coach Saban came calling and he flipped Alabama. And we were like, okay, because, they had Tua, they had Jalen Hurts. It's like, who are they, when is he ever going to get any playing time? And of course, Jalen Hurts transfers to Oklahoma, and then Tua spent last year, he was hurt a lot of last year. And, there you go. And you see, Mac Jones did great last year, and you see the kind of numbers he's putting up this year. So, it's like I said, Kentucky, they would love, I really think, a majority of the fan base would love that wide open air raid kind of offense. It's just, I just don't know that it's in the cards in the current, the way things are right now.
All right, Kevin, we've got 4 more weeks. You got 3 more football games to win here. And then we've got 4 more weeks until National Signing Day on a Wednesday. So we are 4 weeks away from that. We will need you desperately on that day if you can make some time for us. But hopefully Kentucky can keep it close. I don't exactly know what you're going to be rooting for this Saturday. Reasonably, you can't win the game, but looking for good things, I'm sure, to just see that the the team and the program's on the right track.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think if you keep it, the point spread is like 30. I think if Kentucky keeps it under 30, I think that's it would be a good accomplishment. I think I'm working on my preview post for Last Word on College Football for this game, and I'm thinking 42-17, maybe something like that. I mean, the last time they played was back in 2016, and Alabama won 34-6. That time. And I think it's all total. Alabama has won 37 out of 40 games. Kentucky's won twice, and there was one tie, with Kentucky's last win coming in 1997 on an overtime victory. Tim Crouch hit Craig East for a game-winning touchdown, and I may or may not have been in the stands and may or may not have run out on the field after the game and helped try to tear down some goalposts.
Yeah. Well, I think it may. I think we've got a picture in our minds, all of us now.
Yeah. That was one of the most incredible nights. And the thing about it is, Alabama in the late 90s wasn't what they were today, but it was still, you beat Alabama. It was like, it's still a pinnacle of college football. You beat Alabama, you beat them at home, and like I said, the place went nuts. And it was such a cool experience being there that night. I remember it well.
All right, so Kentucky coming off the win against Vandy goes to Alabama, takes on the Tide, 30-point underdog. So at least for 1 week, it's like old times said, Kentucky is a 30-point underdog. Kevin McGuffey, Last Word on College Football. So invite everybody and encourage you to head on over to Last Word on College Football. Check out Kevin's work over there. We've got a ton of friends over there that help us so much here. Kevin, Jason Ray, Tony Siracusa, and the crew over there covering college football. Kevin, appreciate you stopping by. You have a great night.
Thank you, Mark. As always, it's great to come on and chat with you about college football. Really appreciate it.
Very good. And try to enjoy the game.
Okay, I'll try.
All right, Kevin. Our man, Kevin McGuffey, Last Word on College Football. This, of course, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Believe we're going to shut it down for the night. I've got so much editing to do to get you set for the weekend and post a lot of videos coming up on Thursday. The next time we go live is with our Nebraska live show at 6 o'clock Eastern time, right back here. So if anybody's listening to me right now and you're not subscribed, please consider that, because then you hit the bell for the notifications and you know when we're going live. Plus, it helps us build the channel. Cheryl, thank you so much for moderating this mess. Everybody else, thanks for jumping online, and we will see you soon, 6 o'clock Eastern on Thursday, Nebraska Live.